and welcome to our beautiful global family. If you're new here, my name's Linda. I'm an advanced NP certified trauma recovery coach, amongst other things. And today I thought I'd do something special for all of you because I haven't done a raw and real video about my recovery for some time. And as well as that, I also want to share with you a few people that I work with, and I want to share with you their stories so that you can feel hope. Okay, now they're all different stories, but they all have this incredible measure of hope, especially for us with complex PTSD, okay? Because we often don't hear about this, the healthy stories of hope or what's happening in the background or other people's stories, especially at the beginning of our journey, because we're often living in a trauma response of, no, I'm safer off shutting the world out. So if you're at that stage, I want you to be aware that one or two people in the stories that I share, they have been in that space too. And a story of a mum a couple of mums actually, who've had to do some really hard work around their relationships and boundaries with their daughters. And we all know how hard it is to begin learning our boundaries. Hot tip, the first thing we have to learn is how are we going to say no? And that in and of itself is a process. Now, the quick update for my personal recovery journey is that I'm doing really well. And even though I'm stepping up and out beyond what my brain was programmed for in my childhood, so I want you to think of your brain as this incredibly amazing supercomputer beyond anything we can imagine. But as we know with our computers, if they're not programmed properly, they don't function, okay? So for us, as we go forward, we have to literally learn how to do everything in the next stage of recovery because our brain wasn't wired for it. It doesn't have the hard wiring of this is how I learned to say no. For me, it doesn't have the hard wiring of this is how you put everything together online and this is how you teach. I mean, I obviously know how to teach because we've already got the membership, but teach professionals, and so on and so on. There's so many intricate parts to what I'm doing that it becomes challenging. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. However, other times it becomes really exciting too. And when we've had a conditioned trauma response, the excitement can tip us over into being triggered because the brain goes, we don't recognize this. We're not safe. Shut down. And you go, oh my goodness, not again. And we learn to work with that. I teach my clients how to work with that and get out of that state really quick. Now, when it comes to our attachment figures from our childhood, I've discovered that they are able to trigger us in ways that we haven't really necessarily thought about, okay? So for me, I was sharing a really exciting thing coming up for me, and I can't tell you just yet, but it's exciting. And with one of my primary caregivers from childhood, and said, this is what I need, but whether you can give that or not, whether you can be excited for me or not, is neither here nor there. Okay, so I'm at that stage where, I'm adulting, as we say, and I don't need their validation. I just thought it would be nice to share. Next thing you know, I get this whole message back about how I have to meet with them, I have to apologize to them, I have to, there was a list, okay, of have tos. And there was not one mention about celebrating with me, something that's pretty incredible. And I just sat back and I went, oh my goodness. So over the last few days, I've recognised that I was triggered, but I was still able to go and do gym and come home and do the trauma-informed movement and continually get myself out of that trigger in order that I can continue to do and go about my day. However, as I sat there and was very, very human about, I really just want to tell this person how to take a deep dive off a shallow cliff, maybe, a tall cliff. Because we are, in humanity, it's like, how can I respond to that? And then as you go through all the details, you know that you can't respond to it because they don't get it. And it's not about them. And I just went, I've got to learn how to put this down. So I went, well, what is it? And then I realized because of the narcissism, and narcissism has this extremely bitter root that drives it inside of us, like it's this deep bitterness wound right down deep and dark inside people. And it impacts their psychological perception. And so they can't actually see us. So that person can't see me. They can't see that I'm an adult. They can't see that I've moved on from the past a long time ago in regards to them. It's impossible for them to have a conversation with me with where I am today. And they prove that in the simplest way because they started sending me videos about anti-vaccine and all of that, you know, the usual hoo-ha that's going around. And I said, please don't send these to me. And then I said, please don't send these to me. They're distressing. I don't need to see them. I wasn't watching them, but I knew what they were about. And for the third and final time, I said, seriously, you should know me that I'm intelligent enough to make decisions for myself and my particular personal needs at this point in time. Kept sending them. And I just went, to be another adult and not be able to accept that another adult has said no, no thank you, no. And I went, well, what emotional age does that put them at? And I thought, well, really, if we considered it as is a generalism, it'd be about 1 or 2, because when kids are 1 or 2 is when we teach them, no, don't touch that because, you're going to get burnt, you're going to trip over, you're going to hurt yourself. And I went, a child will keep trying until it learns, okay? That's why we do so much on repeat as parents, until they learn, until it hooks in, then they don't learn it. And I went, oh my goodness, this is like trying to have a conversation with a 2-year-old. It's just pointless. So I just didn't even bother responding, because it's their responsibility as an adult to go and sort out their ticked offedness. It's not up to me to sort those wounds out. If that person was capable of having a mutual conversation about it, I could have that conversation and I would be heartfelt, just wanting to apologise, and, I'd never want to cause anyone pain. But the flip side of that coin is, if they haven't done their work or they're not doing it, the next time I don't do something that's out of their control, or I don't act within their control, or how they see the world, how they want to control their world, they're just going to be ticked off with me again. And that's not something I can change either. It's like totally out of my control. So I've been working on keeping myself physically well, and that's going really well. So I wanted to share that with you. So I hope that you can begin to think about the people that you're having dialogue with and asking those questions. What is their emotional age? Can they accept a no from me? Are they hearing me when I even write things down to them that this is what I need, or this is what I'm celebrating? Ask questions about the dynamics that are happening in order that you can take away from that whether or not you can give into that relationship in order to build it. And if somebody is showing you that you can't, then sometimes we've just got to put the whole relationship down to or off to the side and say, obviously, right at this point in time, I can't work with that person. They're not seeing what I see. They're not hearing what I hear. They're not understanding where I'm at. They're still in so much pain for themselves that they're still trying to control everyone outside of their life instead of doing their own internal work. So I hope that helps you with that side of things. I heard the other day, one of my oldest clients, not a client now, when they were my client, they couldn't leave the house. And so this is, a few years ago now. And so what we did was, and I encourage you to do this actually, this was way back, a few years ago before there was any COVID or, the use of phones or media or Zoom or anything like that. And so what we did one night was she had to go outside, and so we sat on the phone and she didn't get on video. A lot of clients don't actually want to sit on video initially, depending on what stage they're at. So I encouraged her just to keep taking one step towards the door, and we talked it through. Now she got out that door and hasn't stopped. Now she goes all over the place and doesn't even think twice about it. However, the other day they shared something really, really special with me, because all their family lives nearby and is pretty close-knit, and, she does her work, but they don't. And she was actually able to stand up to her mum and say no, and I was so, so, so impressed and proud of her, because I know how much work you put into being able to say to your family, no, I'm not going to do that. And then there was another thing they said as well, which was they told their parent to stop being so negative about life and to start looking at things in a different way. And for them to speak up and use their voice, as we all know, for those of us that have learned how to say no and have boundaries and so on, we know how much work went into it. It's no one and done small thing. It's something that with the anxiety we actually really do have to process so much before we actually test the waters to see if we can say no, especially to our family. So that was one person, so proud of them. And another person, we've been working together for some months, but they're enmeshed, but I couldn't have been more proud. So we work together in different ways, which is neither here nor there actually, but we work in ways that help her be able to take one next step. Now, she also has found it really, really hard to leave the house. And the other day, they were able to message me and say they'd left the house to go and do what they needed to do, which was just such a big thing, and that they had also been attending online recovery sessions for their particular area. And I just went, that is amazing. And then immediately sat down and said, you need to do some trauma-informed movement to get the brain on board because you've done something different. And it was so wonderful. And I hope that you're encouraged too. And you can say, well, maybe I can work with my trauma coach or therapist differently to overcome my next hurdle. Maybe I can look at an online recovery group from home that I can attend that will help me have the courage to do my next thing. Maybe I can think about something different that I could do to help me become less enmeshed. So we were speaking today and I said, why not just get up and walk around the outside of the house and see how that goes for you? That'll just change things up. And sometimes our reality is it's just these little things that we do that if we can shift the body, then the brain starts going, oh, we're moving, let's go and look at something else. So think about that. Now, I have a couple of mums that are in different stages of their recovery with their daughters, and it's a long road, not undoable, but it's hard yards when you have to begin putting boundaries in place with your teenage daughters or adult daughters even, because we as mums, our very first thoughts are, what if they do commit suicide? What if they do abandon me? What if they hate me forever? What if we never talk again? Okay, now if you're a mum, I feel your pain, I've been there, and I help these clients be able to navigate this process. Now, I want you to know that both of the mums have come to me and said, what do I do? And we've walked through the process. And why we need the walkthrough is because with complex PTSD, we weren't given the language or the how to, or what do I do to manage this, and how can I guarantee the outcome? Okay. So when we're changing things up as mums, it becomes a challenge for us because, one, we've never had it modelled to us either, and two, we don't necessarily know what the outcome will be. So for me, when I had to change things up with my kids, I just had to rely on my values and what I was willing to negotiate and what I wasn't willing to negotiate, and what was going to give me a good quality of life. Now, that doesn't mean there's not a whole lot of learning in there, because there is, but that's the very, very basis of where we want to begin to make a decision about what boundaries we're going to need to put into place. Now, both these mums have had various different things with daughters, but I want you to know and be encouraged that it's possible to do it and still have relationships with your children, be it daughters, sons, or otherwise, when we put boundaries in place, all right? Both these mums have come through and both have beautiful relationships with their daughters. Our daughters or sons, whatever age they are, when we put boundaries in place, they do tend to have a bit of a hissy fit, which hurts. That's why we need support. We need support so that we can have encouragement. That's okay. It's a healthy thing to teach them boundaries, because then they're going to teach their children, okay? Now, for us, we also need to be able to go, okay, I can do this, and plan it out step by step what I need to do. Now, one of the mums has actually got online and gone to, I think there's one online recovery group for her. She actually gets out, because they're in America, and goes to a meeting, okay? So if you can do that for any type of meeting, and just don't stop till you find one where there's encouragement and proactive behaviours happening, then, and people who've walked the journey before you, then you will know what you need and you'll know you have the support. So you get a mentor in the recovery groups, and as you get a mentor, then you're going to have assistance to help you through the boundaries that you need to put in place as well. All right, and I promise with a mother's heart that as we put the boundaries in place, it then hands back to our children the responsibility for the decisions that they make about their life. One of my other mums actually had to make a decision that her daughter had to leave home because she couldn't live at home and follow the rules and participate as part of the family. And I can tell you, this mum has walked such a really, really hard journey, but also the boundaries have helped her daughter to grow, and to this day they have a really beautiful relationship. And if we look at it with a big overview, then we're able to see that life is this beautiful mess, and we do have to negotiate and navigate through the messy bits, But it's in the messy bits that we actually are vulnerable and we're able to say, this is what I need, this is what's happening for me, and I can and can't do that. One of my other mums was able to say to her daughter, if you message me and threaten suicide again, and even though she's separated from the spouse, then they are able to say, we will call emergency services and they will come and see what's happening for you. Okay, because they have a job, a full-time job that they have to go to as well. So it depends. Now, don't just say, oh, how can you do that? It's not that. It's a boundary that the daughter needed so that she can begin to develop some self-control and begin to ask, do I need to say that to get attention? Okay, because this is not about, how can you explain that? Let's not say we did. This is not about somebody who's definitely going to commit suicide, okay? This is somebody who uses it as a way of saying, I'm in a really deep, dark place and I need somebody to sit with me. So it's about helping her be educated to verbalize what it is that she really, really needs at that time. And it takes away all of the drama that was happening in their family for them. And it's working really beautifully. So please, if there's anything to do with suicide, see a professional who is trained in suicide. Not just your average person, but somebody who was trained in suicide, so that you are able to navigate those times as well. Sorry, I've gone on today, but I really wanted to share with you how much has been happening and how the clients are having success in their own lives, in order to give you some more tools that you can use and you can look into. And hopefully, if you're at the beginning of your journey, navigate the trauma response that says, I've got to do it on my own, and start reaching out into the community that is available to you online as well. Okay, blessings and dreams, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for joining in, and thanks for being part of our global family. Bye for now.